Hey, oh, yay. I'm finally live after some technical difficulties. So if you're watching the replay, maybe skip ahead for a minute. I am just going to take a moment and make sure that I get as many people as possible this updated link. So scratch this. If you're watching the replay, ooh, and someone is here with me live, yay. I'm going to take a minute just to make sure that everybody has the updated link. I had some technical difficulties getting this stream started. I'm a little bit of a YouTube live streamer newbie. So if you're watching the replay, you can absolutely skip forward to me getting started, but I also invite you to take a moment and let go of anything you might have brought into your space today. Just take a couple deep breaths. Feel your butt in your seat or your feet on the ground. And really take a moment to get present with your body while I make sure to share these links. Post. Let's see. And I appreciate you very much sticking with me here. It'll just be another moment. May I please edit? Here we go. Here we go. There we go. Getting everybody the updated link. All right. And just one more place. I really appreciate your patience. If you're here, just take a moment to get grounded as I address the technical difficulties that came up when I tried to start the live stream. I'm just making sure that everybody has an updated link that wants to join us. And just one more place that I need to, just one more place. Maybe, can I edit this? Well, let's see. Find us live or catch the replay here. Okay. It'll have to do. You know, it's really funny because I'm so excited to offer this class to you. And it seems like there have been a few technical difficulties all along the way, just trying to get it shared. And, you know, whatever. This is imperfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. And if you're here, I'm so grateful that you're here. And we're just going to dive in because we're already running late. I've got a lot that I want to get to today. And you have got a body that you're going to get a little bit closer with. We're going to nurture that relationship. So say hi in the chat if you're here. Feel free to leave me a comment if you're watching the replay at any point. I would really love to hear from you. I want your feedback. I want to know how this lands for you. So yeah, let's do this together. And I'm going to dive in. So today we're getting rooted. And to me, when I think of getting rooted, it's all about my relationship with my body, which I understand to be a part of the earth. You know, we as humans, people with a conscious mind, have all of these different parts to ourselves, and our body is the thing that connects us here to the earth. It is made of the elements. It is made from other people, right? And like, depending on what you believe, We've got a soul, we've got consciousness that comes in and intermingles with our body, but our body is something different. So today, I'm going to be sharing a little bit more personally about what my relationship has been with my body, what that journey has looked like for me. But I'm going to be sharing also what barriers I've come across, what things I've noticed, both in my relationship with myself and with other people that I've worked with. And I'm also going to give you some really good places to start. Some really good places to start when it comes to nurturing this relationship with your body, and also a glimpse into what the future might hold for you as far as your relationship with your body goes. And, yeah, sharing how that has evolved for me over time. And I see that there are some people joining me. I'm so grateful that you are here. Please feel free to let me know that you're here in the comments. Tell me who you are. Tell me what brings you here. Do you have an intention for being here today? Is there something that you would love to get out of this? I would love to hear from you in the comments, please. Whether you're here with me live or watching the replay, it really matters to me to hear what is up for you, and I want to help. That's what I'm here for. So let's start with a few ground rules before I really start getting into it, because our body needs to feel safe, right? Hands down. I think our body is a great tool when it comes to feeling safe. And it is, at least it has been for me, a source of feeling unsafe, because it makes sense when you think about it. Like, our body is what connects us to the earth, right? So if that gets threatened, then we cease to exist in this physical form. And that is a huge fear for many, many people. So yeah, we just need to have a few ground rules that can help everybody feel as safe as possible. And one of these ground rules is to know that I am not a doctor. I am not a medical professional. This is not medical advice. I absolutely recommend that you surround yourself with fantastic medical professionals, mental health professionals, and other people who are body experts. I can hopefully offer some pieces of the puzzle, but no way am I the entire thing. And actually, you are the most essential ingredient in any of those relationships, but we'll get to that later. But again, make sure you're surrounding yourself with as much support as you need, both medically and mental health wise. Make sure that you have a team in place of people who are a good fit for you. And if you ever need help figuring out how to make that match, who is a good fit for me as far as medical professionals go, then never hesitate to reach out, because I would love to help you with that. And part of my background is that I was a mental health case manager for 5 years or so in both Boston and Rochester. And I would help my clients, among other things, connect with their medical professionals, communicate with those people. So I've got a lot of experience in navigating that. Oh, we have a comment. So, hi from California. Exciting. I love the West Coast. I'm dealing with a lot of anxiety, and I can tell my body is holding on to a lot of the drama that I've dealt with the last year. Well, I am so grateful that you are here. Thank you for sharing. We are going to be talking about anxiety specifically, a few different points here that I have lined up for us. So I'm so happy you're here, and please, keep the conversation going in the comments. I would love to hear how it's landing for you, and hopefully help you find some relief from that as much as humanly possible. So again, that being said, we tied into the ground rule that I am not a doctor or a medical professional, and it's good to have a full team around you. I also want to say, as a ground rule, right, that we are going to be leaning into our bodies today. We're going to be talking a lot about our bodies. So I want you to notice that you have the ability to set a boundary with yourself. If you feel yourself going into a feeling that you're not ready for, that doesn't feel good, you can pull yourself away. You can end this video. I will not take offense to it, though I do hope you can connect. So I would love to support you through that. I don't want to leave you in a bad place. I want to leave you better off than I'm finding you. So, but that being said, take care of yourself, okay? And notice that you do have the tools to distance yourself from something if it feels too much, if it feels like you really can't handle it right now, or you're not in a good place to, like, physically. Maybe you're watching this at work, maybe you're listening in your car, and there might be some parts that are just too distracting to feel really safe in the surroundings that you're in. So I want you to take notice of that and take ownership of the fact that if it starts to feel uncomfortable, you can remove yourself and set a boundary with how far you're willing to go, or like what you're willing to explore in this context, okay? And another ground rule, the final one that I have, and I reserve the right to bring more ground rules in if I remember any extra ones that I'm forgetting, but I want you to take what works for you and leave the rest. This is not a one size fits all. Bodies are interesting. They are different. People have all different kinds of experiences, all different kinds of ways their body communicate with them. Take what resonates with you and leave the rest. And this is actually a good practice, right? With your body, is that you can notice when something is resonating with you, when it feels good, when it feels curious, when it feels interesting, versus when it feels like that's not for me. So you can even use this as a little experiment to get curious about, what does something feel like when it's right for me, and what does something feel like when it's not. And it's not always so straightforward. That's part of what I'm going to try and help you with today, but we're playing together here, right? So maybe this is another ground rule, that like bring a playful heart, that we're full of love for our bodies here, okay? Like, this is all love. There's no nothing bad about your body or the way that it's trying to communicate with you. And the more we can take some of that stress and pressure off, the further we're going to get in this relationship. Think about how it is if you're trying to like be honest and open with somebody about something that's really vulnerable to you, and like, you can tell that they're not super open to it, or you can tell that they're like judging you. Think about how that feels. Like, the same thing can happen with our body. When we feel judgmental, when we feel just like unaccepting of what it is that our body's bringing to us, it can really shut the conversation down and degrade the quality of that relationship. So we're all about bringing love to the table, staying open. I see, yay for all about love. Yay, 100%. Let's see. And thank you, EC. I'm so glad that you're looking forward to hearing this. I'm so glad to hear you have a therapist as well. And, yes, it's all about learning. And maybe another good ground rule, look at me just coming up with a gazillion ground rules, is that the process continues on and on forever. Like, this isn't one and done. Like, there's always going to be more information to learn about the body, about yourself. So I love, EC, that you are seeking information, that you're surrounding yourself with support, and just, sucking up as much information as you possibly can. EC says he'd be curious to see what I think about people pushing too hard. I tend to throw the kitchen sink at things. I hear that. I can't tell if you're still here with me or not, because it looks like I might have lost you, which is fine. I trust you'll come back and watch the replay, because it does seem like you're excited to watch this, but we are going to be talking about pushing too hard. That's a part of my story. So why don't I just get into that? And I'll break down. So where we're going today, just so that you know ahead of time, is that Oh, good. You're still here. I'm glad to see it. I don't know why it's not showing me that you're here on the little count, but that's why I ask, right? So, we're going to be covering today a little bit more about my story and my relationship with my body and what that's looked like. But really, because I want to highlight for you the barriers and problems that I've noticed, like what sorts of things come up that disconnected me from my body, that I notice that disconnect other people from their bodies and make it harder to really have an open flow of communication between mind and body. And then I will give you some suggestions about where to start when you're, at different levels, honestly, like what might be your next step when it comes to, the day-to-day decisions and choices you're making when it comes to your body, how you might be able to bring a little bit more awareness into that relationship and a little bit more agency, comfort, safety, love, ease into that relationship. And I am absolutely going to give you some next steps because, spoiler alert, the body is so important. And if we don't have a strong relationship with our body or a clear understanding of what the messages are, it can really hold us back and we can stay stuck in patterns that aren't working for us when we're not balancing that feedback with other sources of information as well. Because our body is like very specific on its goals. The primary one is to keep us alive and safe, and that includes keeping us loved, right? That includes, just keeping all of our needs met. So we're going to make sure that you have a good sense of what the next steps might be for you. And I am going to share some details about my course called Conscious Wholeness. It's a pay what you want course. Minimum donation of $5 will grant you lifetime access. But I'm going to go into that a little bit. And hey, if that's not for you, if all you really were bargaining for is this class, then you're going to get all kinds of useful information, and then you can just peace out at the end, and no hard feelings about it. I am here to serve. So, you see you love homework with this kind of stuff. Well, I see you, and I'm going to try and work in some homework. Since you're here hanging out with me, hopefully I'll get a better sense of what homework specifically might be helpful for you. And anybody who's watching the replay, again, reach out. I'm here to support. I'll also say I'm constantly giving people homework in conscious wholeness, whether it's, just helping them to determine what is the right piece of content or like thought process to bring to a practice. I love homework too. So I'm glad to hear that that's the way that you feel about it. So I'll dive into my story, and please keep the comments rolling. I love interacting with you. And again, if you're watching the replay, join the conversation as well. I will always love to see your comments. So EC mentioned that they like to throw the kitchen sink at things, and I hear that. So I pushed through my body's signals for many years, but even before I was old enough to really be pushing and like working really hard at stuff, I never really felt at home in my skin. I remember always feeling kind of awkward, always feeling kind of unsure of, what I was supposed to be doing. And honestly, I'm somebody who's pretty straightforward about this about myself. I've had suicidal thoughts for a very long time, since I was kind of a young kid. So that's very related to my body for me, because it's like wanting to end that relationship, right? So that has always been a part of my awareness, and I pushed past that, right? I just kind of assumed, and I think that there is a part of that that is normal. That's something that many, many people can relate to, because we didn't get a handbook for our bodies when we, were born into the earth, right? It's not like our parents handed us over a book that was like, here's how you be a person in a body. Here's how you, and now actually I think we're seeing more things like that, like children's books and things like that. But at least I never got that kind of input as a child. And I really pushed through. I had goals that I was working towards, right? So as long as I could remember, I wanted to go to college in Boston, and I wanted to help people is basically like what I wanted to do. That the way that I thought that would look changed a little bit over the years. Like I wanted to be a lawyer, and I wanted to be a psychiatrist for a long time, because I just don't think I didn't understand. I didn't understand who I was. I didn't understand like where my priorities were in helping people, I guess. But anyway, I had these goals, right? I wanted to accomplish these certain things. So I pushed through. I had a lot of pain as a kid, not physical pain necessarily, but emotional pain. So I'm somebody who feels things really big. And I remember when I was a teenager, I would have these emotional surges that just felt like they would take over my whole body. Like I remember one time just feeling so angry and hot, like physically hot, like all the blood was rushing to my head, and that I ran out into the winter, night, and like laid down in the snow. Like I just had these huge emotions, and it was only intensified by some things that I went through as a teenager, because like I didn't understand how to work with those. I feel like I got the feedback that, I needed to control those parts of myself. I needed to be able to get past them. I needed to be able to push past them and kind of contain. But I had no idea how to do that other than like self-medicating, other than at first it was trying to get medication, and then I realized like I didn't enjoy being on medication. I took an antidepressant as a kid, and so I'll add that part of what intensified these emotions for me. I lost my first love to suicide when I was 15. That same year, I was raped. The same year, I had a breast reduction. That all happened within a 12-month period. And there are other things that have happened in my life for sure, both before and after. But there was kind of like this trifecta of just emotional experiences that I was having. And I had no clue where to put all of that. So the only thing I really knew to do was to push through, keep focused on my goals that I'm working towards, work as hard as I can to stay on track towards those, but also a lot of self-medicating. Like I said, I tried taking some actual prescription medication. It didn't really feel right for me. I didn't like the way that I felt on it. And then, there would be a lot of drinking, a lot of like risky behavior, a lot of, drug use, and just doing things that probably weren't the best for me, but they were the only way I knew to contain what I was feeling, even a little bit. Because if you met me in that period, it might not seem like I was containing it very well, because like I probably wasn't. But it was at least enough to keep me going. It was at least enough to keep me ingrained in my community in a way that felt safe enough, that felt like it worked. Yeah, you see, shares the feeling of trying to push past things. By the way, thank you for being so open. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it, and I hope that it's helpful. Um, But yeah, so I pushed through for many years towards those goals, and eventually I was learning more about myself, and I got to a place where I was really living out exactly what I had worked towards for a long time, right? I was working in mental health, using my degree in psychology that I had worked so hard for. I felt very blessed to be able to work in my field. You know, was living in Boston, which was my dream for as long as I could remember, and I still absolutely love Boston. You can ask my partner, who knows very well that I would probably love to be living there again, and I don't live there anymore, but I was at the time, and I was even in a relationship with somebody who was super loving. They were very good to me. We were very close, and there were no complaints. Like, it was the best that I'd ever been treated in a relationship before. And the problem was that I didn't feel great. The problem was that I had incredible amounts of anxiety, that the more and more I was working with clients, the more responsibility I was taking on for those people. I felt so responsible and just scared that I was going to do the wrong thing for them. I was rude and mean to my partner. Like, I wasn't good to that person, and they deserved a lot better. And I started noticing, I was like, there's something that I need to do differently here. There's something that's wrong, because my life doesn't feel like I thought that it was going to when I reached this point of, like, very clearly living out my dreams, right? Like, I should be on top of the world right now, enjoying every second of this. And I just can't. Like, I feel miserable. I was having anxiety attacks. I just was not happy. I wasn't happy in my body either. Like, and since we're talking specifically about our bodies here, I'll say, I didn't feel happy with my weight. I felt completely out of control around that. Like, I didn't understand exactly how diet and exercise would lead to results, because I, tried that on and off for and it just didn't ever really stick for me. Like, it didn't ever feel good. I didn't really see all the results that I wanted to. So there was a lot of discontent, like, with my physical body that I recognized, but a lot of it was just like, I am not happy, and how can I need to do something I need to look at this. I need to work through this so that I can actually enjoy this amazing life that I'm so lucky to have. And that led, excuse me. Hopefully that's not, making my sound all weird. There we go. That led to a huge deep dive into the personal growth world, into self-reflection. I ended the relationship that I was in because I knew I just needed to spend time focused on myself. I needed to be able to sit with myself and, like, understand what was going on inside of me. And I knew I was not able to do that. And I didn't feel like I would be able to do it within the context of the relationship. So I made some changes. I got a therapist. I did a lot of self-reflection, and not only was I in therapy, but I started exploring these other things as well. Like, I started exploring a lot of spirituality. I saw a medium who helped me communicate with that boyfriend that I mentioned, who had died when I was young. I got my first Reiki healing. I had dabbled. Later on, I started understanding more about mindset work and things like that. Like, the more I dove in, the more interested and curious I was, and it helped. Like, now I'm at a point where I do love the skin that I'm in. I do understand what is happening for me emotionally, and I've got a pretty darn good handle on what to do about it. And so that's why we're here today, so that I can help relay some of that information. And this is what I created Conscious Wholeness for, is to break down some of the confusing parts of personal growth, because there's a lot of information out there, but there's also patterns. There are also things that repeat. So I'm really focused on the things that repeat and creating new patterns for myself by walking myself through that process. And that's basically what conscious wholeness is. I'm getting ahead of myself. So let me get a drink of water here really quick. I hope you have some water. And let's take a little body break before I get into the barriers and problems that I see, the things that keep us away from our bodies. Take a moment. Take a deep breath. Let yourself become aware of the things that are touching your skin. Feel your butt in the seat or your feet on the ground. Notice the visual things that stick out to you in the room around you. Notice the different colors that you see. Notice what you're hearing. Are there other sounds other than my voice? What would be a nice sound that you would love to hear right now? What are some smells that are around you in the room? Do you have any sort of like essential oil or scented markers or flowers or something that you can bring scent in to your experience? And come back to this awareness of feeling what's on your skin. Like, how do your clothes feel? Are you warm? Are you cold? Do you need a stretch? Do you need some more water? Do you need a blanket to change your position to something more comfortable? Very good. And this is so helpful for me too, because I don't know if you can tell, but I tend to get a little heady, energetic, flighty when I'm teaching. So it's very helpful for me to slow down, get centered, and proceed from that place, because then we can merge all of these wonderful parts of ourselves, right? So as I've mentioned in other places, the real key mover for me when it comes to my relationship with my body has been learning how to recognize what's right for me, what feels right for me physically, and cultivating a willingness to follow that. Because I'm sure you can relate that there is a large gap between knowing what's right for you and actually being ready to do it. So what's really made the difference for me has been exploring those things. How do I recognize what is right for me? And then how do I give myself the strength? How do I cultivate the courage to follow that, even when it doesn't necessarily fit in with what I think I should do or what the people around me want me to do, or whatever it may be, what's easy, whatever. Recognizing what's right, following it. So things that I noticed that were blocking my ability to be connected to my body that I needed to work through. I've got a little bit of a list here. And again, I'll say that it's not, I work on this one time, I release this one time, and we're good to go. These are things that come up over and over again through a life. that every time you want to receive more into your life, every time you want to feel better, every time you want to feel more worthy, more something, you want to receive more love, more support, more, financial appreciation for your work. These are things that you can bump up again over and over again. So it's really good to be aware. And it's really important to not judge yourself for that either, because it's a natural part of life. Humans work in patterns. This is a body thing, patterns. And the reason that we do that is to keep us safe. Period. End of story. And the way to stay the safest is to repeat things you've already experienced before. So anytime you want to experience something you haven't experienced before, like for me, in the story I just told, it was that I wanted to experience feeling happy. I wanted to experience feeling love and enjoying my life, as opposed to just feeling anxious and sad and stressed all the time. That was new for me. I was used to feeling pretty stressed. I was used to only feeling fun when I was like, drinking and ignoring the things that ailed me, right? So be prepared and be accepting of the fact that this is a forever process. As long as you have a body, you will bump up against this because your body wants to keep you safe. So part of a barrier that's tied into this is we get very worried about what other people will think and what other people will say, right? So this was a huge problem for me as a teen. What comes to mind? Part of why I got a breast reduction as a teenager, which as an adult, I look back at that and I know that now I would make that decision much differently than I did then. But at that time, I hated being well endowed as a teenager. I hated the attention that I got. I hated the looks that I got from men, from women, from everybody. I hated being like a walking trigger for people. That's what I felt like. It didn't feel safe to me at all. But it wasn't necessarily about what made me feel happy in my body, because it had nothing to do with loving myself, right? It had everything to do with making my physical appearance more appealing for the world around me, more safe in the world around me. So notice if there's anywhere that you're making your body feel a little bit more uncomfortable than it needs to be, where you're shutting down a signal that you're getting from your body because you want to appease the people around you, because you want to belong to, your family, your group of friends, your community. This is one way we can separate from ourselves. Checking comments here. We're good to go. So I'll keep it moving. Related to this is the way we receive messages about our body, the way our world conditions us. So, and this plays in all sorts of different ways, but in our society, I live in America, this is available all over the world, but for me, we're in a very highly capitalist society, right? Have always been. As long as I've been alive, this has been a very industrious, capitalist society. And I have friends that would trace this change, or big change here, back to the Industrial Revolution, when everybody's going into work and all of a sudden there's a cash value on your ability to work and produce, right? So we attribute, a lot of people get their value of like their inherent value of their body and what they can bring to the table mixed up with the amount of work that they're able to provide for somebody else, or whatever, the amount of work they're able to do. And the truth is that, that's not what your worth is based in. Your worth is determined by you, and it exists regardless of what your circumstances are. The fact that we in our society have tied worth to money is something that we have a choice to change now. You have a choice to change now, and it's not easy by any means, but hopefully the awareness can help start the process, right? Another thing that's related to what I mentioned before is that, the way our society conditions us to think about what's attractive and what's not attractive. And I feel like most people feel like they vary a little bit from what society thinks is the most attractive. And this is another way that people measure worth, whether they're aware of it or not, right? So if we are unhappy with the set of physical features that we've been given as how that stands up to the society's idea of what we should look like, that can degrade our relationship with our body over time because we're telling ourselves we're not good enough. And we're in a catch-22 here too, people, because I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of mixed messages out there. When I think about like what's sexy, right, versus don't be too sexy, because that's another issue. Like we're always in a catch-22 with something when it comes to our body. Like we can't please everybody all the time. EC says, yeah, you tie your value to productivity, and with anxiety, productivity is way down. So you feel you're failing. Well, I am so glad that you are here. And I think that this is a success that you're here. And I can't wait to hear if this helps your productivity at all. Because I'll say this is kind of out of place as far as the presentation goes, but one of my favorite tips for becoming more productive is what we're talking about here, to follow what your body wants to do. It feels like we have to be perfect. Absolutely, it feels like we have to be perfect. But like, what is perfect, right? If you think about it, it doesn't really exist. It's relative. Everybody's got a different idea of what perfect is, and there's really never a way to reach it. It kind of goes into something I've said a couple times now, is that this is a forever process. Life is a forever process. You could reach your perfect pinnacle of success, and guess what? You're going to enjoy it for maybe 15 minutes if you're lucky, and then you're going to set your sights on something new that you want to do. And this is just life. That's a good thing. But the truth is that you get to enjoy yourself and value yourself all the way along. One reframe that's popping into mind that I've really loved, and I want you to check out Tony Jones on Spotify or wherever you listen to music if you can. She makes these wonderful tracks that pair mantras with music. And one of the things that she said that has really been sticking with me is, I value rest as productivity. What are you thinking about that? I value rest as part of my productivity. And it's true, right? Think about how much more efficient you are when you come to something well rested. Might have been a while since you felt that way, but it allows you to have so much more energy and clarity when you bring to something. So I'll finish what I was mentioning about the tip for productivity, and it kind of ties into that, being willing to relax and embracing that as part of your productivity process. One of the best things I love to tell people to do, give it 24 hours. Give it 1 hour if that's all you have. Give it 15 minutes if this is all you have, and experiment with this to really center in your body and allow it to let you know what it wants to do, what it needs, what it wants. A lot of people, at least this happens to me, the first thing, especially if I'm like really having to bring it back in, is that I want to rest. Maybe I want to take some time off. Maybe I want to watch a movie. Maybe I want to do something creative. And the first story that comes in about productivity, right, is that like, I can't do that. I don't have time for that right now. the most productive thing that you can do is to give yourself what your body is asking for and dive into it full force without judgment or making yourself wrong for it, without talking smack to yourself about how lazy you are, like whatever it is, just allow yourself to have that space. Again, maybe it's only for 15 minutes that you let yourself lay on the couch and cuddle up in a freaking cozy blanket ball, you know? I find, and it sounds like EC says that's great when I'm balanced. I do follow that. I wonder if you have any inclination of what gets you out of balance, like what stops you from following that, because that's probably a really great little piece of awareness. If you can pinpoint, you know, because I can relate to that, right? I am not perfect. I don't always follow these things. That being said, I know I'm so much better when I am following them. But like, what are the stories that eventually come in and tell you that you can't do this anymore, that you have to do XYZ thing instead of what you actually want to do? And you might not have an answer right away. And I do have more tools for that I'll talk about at the end. But I would be really curious to hear from you, EC, if anything comes up around that. So I'll keep moving with the barriers I've noticed. A big one is fear around the body. And it stems from the conditioning that we receive around the body, I think, you know. I think there are fears around our emotions, our fears that emotions are bad, our fears that following our body is going to take us way off track of what we actually want to do, a fear that, you know, maybe we'll do something that hurts other people or that hurts ourselves if we just like follow what our body wants to do. That there's also a huge medicalization of the body that makes it kind of scary when you're having like a sensation that feels weird, right? That, you know, maybe you have anxiety and your heart starts racing and it feels scary to lean into that. It feels scary to allow that sensation to take up all of your awareness because like we have an existential fear that something being wrong in our body is really bad and that's something that can take us out, right? But the truth about it is that when we make space, and again, like I said at the beginning, I'm not a medical doctor and I fully support everybody getting medical professional advice when you need it. And even when you don't, like just keep a really good team around you and just in case. But we avoid leaning into it because it scares us about what might be wrong. But when you lean in and you give yourself the time and space to get curious about the sensations in your body, they generally have messages for us because this is part of how our body communicates with us is through sensations, feelings, emotions, you know, but it could even be like a physical sensation. This is the way our body communicates with us. So it's important to be open to receiving that information as opposed to just trying to block it out because we're afraid of what it might mean. EC says right now it is many responsibilities. Work is very busy, moved into a new house and got married. Wife fighting depression. Oh my goodness. Plus the pandemic. Yeah. So it feels very out of your control and nothing pokes at anxiety like feeling out of control. Am I right? Ah, man, I can relate to that. So I think sometimes like in life, yeah, there are just a lot of things, and this is one of those times, right? Because we have this pandemic. There are so many people. I feel like everybody is struggling a little bit right now. I haven't met a single person who is just like thriving, hands down, no difficulty whatsoever. Like, we're just living in a time where there are things to be afraid of, and like, I was just talking about fear around medical things being wrong with the body. We're in a freaking pandemic. Like, that's a realistic fear to have, right? Um, so I think there's something to be said for the awareness of recognizing that and maybe lowering the expectations that you have for yourself and other people, but also making sure that when you are not approaching those things that need you, that you are like 100% focused on filling up your own cup. Like, you are stuffing relaxation into your day wherever you can get it. So I don't care if it is 5 minutes that you take to walk outside during your workday and like put your bare feet in the grass. I don't care if it's 5 minutes to like take a cozy blanket and go like cozy up on a couch. Can you tell that's one of my things to do when I'm feeling really overwhelmed? That's one of my things, is just like kind of a cozy cocoon in a blanket until I feel better. Just like breathe and pretend like there's nothing else in the world but that relaxation space, you know? Um, let me know if that's helpful at all. But if I were you and I was like incredibly busy at work, also just moved, which is a huge transition, and congratulations, by the way, and got married. Again, congratulations, by the way. And your wife is having these challenges too. It's almost got to be your number one priority to just shove in things that make your body feel good at every chance that you get. So in the conscious wholeness course, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, hopefully this will help you implement. I break it down into 3 basic steps. So I suggest that the first thing that you do is see where you can welcome some more love into the relationship with your body. Like, are there places that you need to forgive your body for not having more energy to give? Places that you need to, forgive your body for being in pain? Places that you need to like recognize, my body is in pain and I need to address this. Where can you enter more love into the way that you're thinking about your body? And think about it in the terms of like, imagine 2 different parents, right? Like, imagine there's a parent and these people exist. For better or worse, this world is a weird place. And there are some parents that are really mean, right? That like work their kids to the bone from the time that they're born. Like, think about the parents in Matilda, the movie Matilda. Hopefully you've seen it. The ones that are just abusive, that put unreal expectations on kids, the ones that, insist that all of the homework is finished and like no fun can be had unless the homework is done. That kind of a vibe versus a parent that is incredibly loving and balanced. And let's be clear here, because hard work is a part of loving your body. It wouldn't be very loving to your body if you were just like, oh, like, I don't care about feeding myself. I don't care about housing myself. I am just loving and like everything is okay. Like, that's not what we're talking about. A loving parent still makes sure that their children's needs are met, right? Their need for love, their need for nourishment, those needs are being met. Versus that mean parent that like really doesn't care that much. They just want them to be able to work hard and like get, XYZ thing, whatever done, and accomplish XYZ, whatever thing, no matter what the cost. Can you recognize these sorts of things even in yourself? My thought process around this is that we both have, or we all have both. We all have both available to us. But the first step of really sinking back into your body is bringing more love into the conversation. Next, I would say, is bringing more comfort into the situation. So like it might not be easy, and maybe this is part of what's hard to implement, is that like you have so many responsibilities and these are things that you need to do, right? Like you can't quit your job because like we said, even the loving parent needs to meet the needs of the household, right? You can't forgo your responsibilities with your household, and you want to be there for your partner and nurture that relationship. So like there are all of these things that are calling your attention right now, but you can always, it takes no time at all really to welcome more comfort into the situation. So like for instance, bring a blanket to work, get a more comfy chair if you can, change your position in a way that feels good for you, have a nice snack that makes you feel good, stand up to stretch while you're on the phone. There are all of these kinds of ways that you can bring more comfort into the situation without necessarily changing the context of your day or like what it is that you're doing, but you can welcome more comfort into the scenario as well. And the third step that I offer is to bring even pleasure into the scenario. So doing things that make you feel really good. Maybe it's having like essential oils that you keep on your desk that you smell throughout the day that make you feel good. Maybe it's even just a way like you touch your skin. So one thing I used to do is set an alarm on my phone that I would call a pleasure alarm. And a lot of times when that went off, I would be literally with a client or something like that. And all I would do is, a lot of times, since I do what I do, I would bring it into the conversation, but you don't have to do that. You can just so nicely like rub your hands together. I invite you to practice this right now. Just rub your hands together and focus on the sensation. Focus on how that feels. Notice if there's anywhere, like if you just, explore your hand. Are there any places that the touch feels ticklish or nicer? So these are like very simple ways that you can implement bringing an awareness and an attention and a like love and care for your body that don't necessarily have to interrupt the course of your day. Does that help when it comes to being implementable, EC? I would love to hear. And again, I have more about that in the Conscious Wholeness course as well. Those are the 3 steps that I encourage people to go through when it comes to what I would call sinking into your skin, is to bring love into the conversation, bring comfort into your physical surroundings, and then bring pleasure into the surroundings. So I hope that was helpful when it comes to being able to implement. And okay, so a few more barriers before, and that was a good little place to start too. So yeah, I got ahead of myself. Let's see. He says, yeah, in general, yes. I try to do small things. I guess it just feels so slow to change. And I wonder if like there's a not good enough story there that's happening, because here's the thing, that when that's like again, something that kind of degrades the love. It's like if you're telling yourself it's not good enough, then it's kind of like, you're trying to sit down in a comfy chair, but you literally are kicking the legs out from under it. and this is a little bit more of a mindset practice, which what I'm about to offer, but one of the things that's really helpful for me, especially when it comes to like loving my body and changing those sorts of things, like the not good enough, is to really just be persistent. When I notice that, and we all have those voices, and I trust me, you see, I hear you. Self-criticism is huge in my head and it can hold me back so much. So you're not alone, and I'm not perfect at this. But one of the things that really moves the needle for me is like insisting, you know what? This is all I have right now and it is good enough. So like you hear that voice in your head that says, "Oh, this is just so slow. This is never going to get me anywhere." Well, you know what? It's good enough. It's good enough. I have what I have. This is good enough. I have enough. I do enough. I am trying hard enough. Like, it's enough. And see if that helps. I know that's really simple. It's easier said than done. But again, like being really persistent with myself about how I'm talking to myself and what I'm insisting on for myself helps me in that sense. Um, so another barrier that I see, especially when it relates to the body and like being connected to one's body and creating routines that really work for us, is the mixed messages around diet and exercise. I'm not going to get too deep into it because we're already up on an hour here. And this is me. I'm kind of a yapper and tend to go on for a while. So hopefully it's all helpful, and I want to get through everything. But diet and exercise, like think about how many different choices that we have available to us at all times. It can be so confusing. And with whether it's like personal growth in general, or it's just, the diet and exercise and the way people say your relationship with your body should work, like there's so many mixed messages out there. And we start trying to people please, right? We start trying to do what we think we should do instead of what our body is asking us to do. So like this is in general a barrier that at least I've noticed for me, is that my mind tries to micromanage my body and tell my body what it wants, tell my body what it needs. But like the body, that's not no amount of the mind forcing on the body what it needs is ever gonna get the job done when it comes to feeling really good and nourished in the routines that you're setting for yourself. Like there needs to be an awareness and a reverence for what your body is asking for. So like it might not always be a vigorous workout. Maybe some days sleeping in is more of what you need than 2 workouts a day or whatever. And I do think that there are always benefits to sticking to a routine, especially if that's what your body is craving, especially if that's something you're curious about experimenting with for yourself. Like, yes, sometimes it can be good to really push yourself into a routine that is nourishing and supportive for you. But generally speaking, I want you to release a little bit more of what you think you should do, what you hear other people telling you to do, what you hear about this diet or this exercise or that exercise, and more get curious on a day-to-day basis with your body around what it's asking for. For me, a lot of times what my body's asking for is like a stretch, right? So, I need a hip flexor stretch. My hips are always feeling tight because I'm always sitting at a computer. So being really aware around what kinds of movements would feel good, as opposed to just trying to follow routines just because like you think you should do it. Says, yeah, improving my routine I can see as a key step for me, trying to figure out what serves me. Well, I'm hoping that we can get some insight into that. And if not, at least send you away with some really good homework. And you struggle to read your body for sure. I wonder if you can tell me any more about that, EC, about what have I come up across anything that you've heard me talking about in these barriers that feel particularly resonant around like what is holding you back from that read, or is there something else going on? I would be curious if there are words that you can put to that. And I know that it's a personal question and maybe a hard one to answer, especially when it comes to the body. It can be hard to explain in words, but I would love to help you with that. So, and I have two more barriers that I really want to mention, and maybe one of these is part of it. So, trauma is a big thing. And like I mentioned earlier, part of what disconnected me from my body is that there was so much emotion in there that I just like had no idea what to do with. So I was shoving it all in and I had no idea how to process it. And not only just regular day-to-day events, but also traumatic events like being raped. I just had not dealt with. So a funny story. I don't know if it's funny, that's not the right word, but like one of the first things that I really came up against when I made that decision, when I left that relationship, when I got a therapist, when I was like, okay, I need to figure out what's going on here. One of the very first things I came up against was a trauma around being raped. And that I hadn't dealt with at all. I hadn't told people. I had told a couple people, but like, not been ready to go there at all, hadn't disclosed it to most people. And I found so much emotional stuff, and it just like bubbled up in an intimate moment. I had a flashback, and that was one of the first things that came to me. And then, I just had to work through it. And it took a while to work through that one, to be quite honest. But that's something I'll say, is that if there's something that happened in your life that was very charged emotionally and you had no clue what to do with it and it didn't get processed, those emotions, they can store up in your body and create dis-ease. Like, not only does it feel crappy, but like it can literally create sickness and disease. But part of the curiosity and opening up to reading your body might involve allowing some of those things to come up. Now, let me say, because we're all about being safe here, right? And a lot of times, especially when it comes to trauma, it makes people feel like they're not safe to talk about it. They're not safe to go there. That's why we shoved it down in the first place. So, it's important to feel really safe and to set boundaries with your own body to build a trust, to say like, I only want to receive the awareness that I can work through with ease right now. Like, you get to kind of decide that. You get to build this relationship with your body, and it is a lot more likely to honor the boundaries that you're setting if it is getting some time to process some of the things that you've been asking it to hold on to way too long, quite frankly. So I'm curious if that's part of it. And I think I might have lost you, AC. Again, it's telling me I lost you. So if you're still here, then let me know. But I will finish my barriers that I brought to the table by saying the pain of the world that we're living in is traumatic in itself. We already touched on a little bit that like there's a lot going on in our world right now. And I don't know about you, but as a person who cares really deeply, as a person who feels really really strongly, the pain of the world is a lot to take at times, and it doesn't actually get less and less. The more and more I feel, the more and more I feel, the more I get comfortable, and the more I'm in communication with my body, the more of that pain I'm aware of. And, again, I'm a person who cares. So I see the things on my feed. And there are a lot of traumatic things, and secondary trauma is a thing. Like, we can feel traumatized just by watching somebody else go through something, and that's totally legitimate. So a lot of times when it feels like the pain of the world is too big to bear, we want to shut ourselves down and shut off our relationship with our body so that we don't have to feel that. So that can be part of the barrier to feeling really rooted and grounded in your body. Is there anything else that I want to say about that before we move forward? Yes, I want to say that the benefit of being willing to go there and feeling is that there's generally something that we can do. The emotions that we're feeling about something, a pain that we're seeing in the world, it can illuminate an area that we can contribute in. It illuminates for us what our priorities are in life, what's important to us, what we want to see more for the people around us. So when we are willing to actually process that pain instead of just pushing it away, we're able to feel more fulfillment through allowing that to clarify what's important to us and following that information. Yes. So, and on that note, I'll move into where to start here. And I think that I lost my person, but EC, if you come back and watch this, I hope that you'll pick it back up. And again, anybody who's watching this, feel free to reach out to me if you want more specific help, more support. I'm here for you. So where I want you to start, especially if you're brand spanking new, is to get really curious about how it is that your body communicates with you. Get really curious. Are there sensations that are coming up for you at different points throughout the day? Maybe that's okay that you need to leave for a work meeting. Please do watch the rest of the video later, because I think that what we're about to get into is going to be the most helpful when it comes to helping you read your body and making some movement with the anxiety. And I trust that the timing is perfect, that it'll be a better moment for you to really take it in later when you come back. So thank you so much for being here with me. And I'll look forward to hearing what you think about the rest, EC. Thank you so much for being here. So again, where to start? I want you to get curious about how your body communicates with you. What sensations are coming up? Is there butterflies in your stomach? Is there racing in your heart? Is there a sensation that's coming up? Just get curious and allow your awareness to bring it to you. Allow yourself to notice these things instead of just shutting it down to push through your day. So like one example, and this kind of relates to the fear of the medicalization too. Like the other day, I was getting this really weird pain in my breast. And that's a scary thing for a woman to have happen. Immediately it's like, oh my God, is there something wrong? Is there some kind of cancer or something like that? But instead of getting instantly scared about it, of course, that little story was there. But instead, I just got kind of curious about it, right? Like, is this a medical thing, or is this like just something that my body is trying to communicate with me? Is there something my body is releasing? Is there something that it needs? And so I was able to identify a couple things that I thought would help me feel better. Again, I brought in some more comfort. I brought in some pleasure. I started doing a little bit of like massage with a CBD oil for a couple of nights, and that helped, just getting present with it, just doing what I could to be present with the sensation. And instead of trying to get away from it, to get curious about it and see what it wants and needs. Because again, when we push our body away, it doesn't get quieter. Like, it just gets slowly louder and louder and more insistent over time. So another thing I want you to do, is just to listen, try to be a little bit more open to hearing it rather than shutting it down. And this, hands down, has been the biggest needle mover when it comes to my anxiety, is to really be willing to recognize if I'm feeling anxious about something, that my body has a good reason for feeling the way that it does. There's something valid there. There's something that is making my body afraid. Even if it doesn't make logical sense. I explained it this way in my conscious wholeness office hours the other day. Like, imagine you're driving in a car and you see up ahead that there's a huge accident that's going on, and it's like in progress in front of you, but you're not driving the car. You are just like ride-in passenger, right? And the driver of the car, let's call this your conscious mind for the purpose of the metaphor, is just kind of driving, doesn't seem to see the accident, right? Doesn't see the point, doesn't see what's going on. And so you start going, hey, like, do you see that up there? How would it feel if that driver just ignored you and just kept going, like, oh, no problem to see here, like, blah, 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 driving. Think about, would you get less anxious or would you get more anxious over time? That's the kind of thing that happens with anxiety. And the thing is, it's like, as soon as you're willing to open up and listen to what it is scared about, your body, usually it's something really simple that you can accommodate for and like listen to, that it really doesn't take any time at all. You might find that, you're scared about doing this thing because it doesn't feel like you're ever going to be able to do it well enough. So what you can do is a little bit of what we talked about already, like, be persistent and insistent that you are good enough. Reassure your body that you are good enough. Reassure your body that I will make sure I'm making time and space for you. To address your needs. Your body might be looking at goals that you have and saying, like, dude, like, you're not even making time for me now, so I am not on board with you going to do that, because we need to like handle what's happening here, right? So really being willing to hear that feedback from your body, love up on it, say thank you, because it's trying to keep you alive, trying to keep your needs met, trying to keep you safe, and being willing to allow it to adjust the decisions that you're making is huge. And I'll say, anybody who is listening to this who deals with anxiety, that is something that I'm very comfortable helping people with. Again, I'm not a medical doctor. I am not a therapist. I'm not a professional in that way. That being said, I have very much so dealt with this with my own anxiety. I have worked with many clients who had severe anxiety and PTSD, and in my own realm have had a lot of success at helping people relieve some of that very quickly. So if you want to work with me on that, I would love to do that. But so another thing that I want you to keep in mind is to start with the small decisions before you try to make the big ones, because the big decisions when it comes to getting your body's feedback can be very confusing because there are a lot of different things that come into play. It's not just your body that you need to consider, it's your mind, what your goals are, it's, all sorts of different things. But what you can do is to start with really small decisions, like what do I want to eat today? How do I want to move? If you go out to dinner, what do I want to order on the menu? And really allowing your body to start giving some feedback around that. I like to let my body make body decisions, is how I would say this. So, not all decisions fit into that category, right? So, like, what goals I'm working towards professionally is not necessarily a body decision. Yes, I need and want my body to be on board with that, but it's not the full story. It impacts so much more than just my body. But things that like really fully impact my body, like what I am eating, the medical care I'm pursuing, the clothes that I'm wearing, those are body decisions. And I like to let my body make my body decisions hands down. So for me, that looks like pursuing intuitive eating as opposed to any kind of regimented diet. And I'll say that I found counting calories and like walking 10,000 steps a day and working out a set number of times a week, like very helpful for me for a while, because I had literally no idea how to understand nutrition. Like I just had no connection in my brain or in my body about like what felt good and what it was. So like it might be a process of trial and error at first around this, where you have to try some different things and just notice, what does this feel like in my body? Does this give me more energy? Does this make me more tired? And like allowing yourself to adjust your decisions based on that, because we can really make ourselves wrong when something doesn't go the way we think it's supposed to go. But there is no wrong here. You can take your body's feedback and you can make decisions that increase your energy, like period. But yeah, letting my body make body decisions. Again, it started with the eating. It started with, very simple things like that, like walking and how I wanted to move. But eventually it turned into my medical decisions. It was like I could tell I didn't want to do things like take birth control. So I stopped taking that and I removed that from my body, and that really helped me get even clearer feedback from my body because it was allowed to adjust to its own cycle. And then years later, I stopped wearing bras. Like, I don't feel like I want to do that. And the only reason I thought I had to do that as a woman. I thought that was part of how I needed to dress myself to be acceptable in the society. But you know what? I am lucky enough to live in the United States, a free country. I can dress the way that I want to dress. And if I don't want to wear a bra, I am not going to wear one. So, and if my body doesn't want that confinement, if it makes my body happier to do this differently, then that's something I'm going to do. That's how I made my decision about whether to get vaccinated. And I'll tell you right now, I was not sure if I was going to get vaccinated. I was not sure how I thought about that because I have some distrust in the healthcare system, quite frankly. I left the healthcare system wanting to bring more information like this to the world, and I wasn't sure. I didn't trust the healthcare system. I know it's a money-generating business. Like, there are all these logical reasons why I was like, I don't know if I'm going to want to get that vaccine. But what really made me get it was simply that I was presented with an opportunity to get the vaccine, and I felt a very strong yes resonating through my body. And through many years of practice, I know exactly what that feels like. I know when there's a very strong yes in my body, I feel very safe following it. And over time of following those decisions, I've built trust with my body. So it's clear to me, like that was the decision to make. And I was surprised that it was such a clear yes, because it logically to me was not. But again, I like to let my body make body decisions. I share a couple very simple practices for generating feedback from the body in the Conscious Wholeness course. One of them is finding your body's yes and no. You can kind of simply ask your body, what is yes? Body, what is no? And for me, when I say what is yes, like I feel a little movement in my hips, kind of like a little back and forth, and no is side to side. I feel an inner movement like that my body wants to move. And it can be anything. It could be yes is like a tingling in the back of your neck, and no is like your big toe starts to hurt. I don't know. You have to figure out what that is for you. But that's the sort of practice that you can find in Conscious Wholeness and start to play with now, even if you don't want to do something like that. And I'll say that long term, what this looks like for me as my relationship with my body advances, I have become much more inclined towards things like making sustainable decisions as far as the earth is concerned. It's brought me closer to the earth. It's made me more aware of how I want to treat the earth, right? How I want to use my resources, which is one of my favorite things about these practices, because it deepens those roots, right? Again, like I said, I've come to view my body as part of the earth. So loving myself, nurturing my body over time, a natural extension of that has become wanting to take care of the earth. And it has become easier and easier and easier to make those decisions little by little by little, because I'm doing it in this way that feels really natural, in this way that feels really comfortable, that just kind of grows over time. So here's the thing. The next step is, and I've said this already, is that the love and awareness you have for your body, while incredibly important and invaluable, is not the full picture. If you only are following your body, you will repeat patterns that your body is playing out. If you're not balancing it with like the mind, and logic and thinking things through, and focusing on what you want, it can lead you off in directions that you don't necessarily want to go, especially if you have a lot of unprocessed emotions in your body. So it really needs to be balanced. This is one part of a bigger puzzle that is yourself. And the course that I've created, called Conscious Wholeness, it explores 3 different parts of the self as I see them: your mind, your body, and your energy. And now I find the body to be incredibly important because, it's our vehicle on this earth. If it's not on board, you're not going anywhere. It's like if your car's broken down, you're not going to drive it down the street, sort of a thing. So like, if it's a place that there is resistance and there is relationship nurturing that needs to be done, it is a huge needle mover. And also, the whole point of this life is the experience that we're having, right? Like, it's the senses, it's the feelings, it's the, why do you want what you want? Probably because of how you think it's going to feel physically, how you think it's going to be when you're experiencing that. So without the body piece of the puzzle, it's always going to be impossible to really get there and really deepen that experience, because, if you're shutting down from the big feelings, it's not just the bad stuff that you're blocking out, it's everything. So, yes, the body is a central part, but there are also other pieces to the puzzle that are equally as important, and they balance each other and they work together. So, if you enjoyed this class, then I hope you'll consider joining me inside of Conscious Wholeness. I think that you would really love it because it is basically a collection of classes like this, along with workbooks and meditations that help connect you to your body, that help you focus your mind and your energy towards what you want, and actually breaking down some steps, some practices that can help you do that. So some of the content that's available in there that would help you with this that we're talking about, with like your body connection specifically, first of all, there's a meditation that's a body check-in meditation that's super useful, and that's less than 10 minutes. All the meditations are less than 10 minutes. So it's something that you can lean on anytime. If you only find yourself with 10 minutes and really want to do something nice for your body, or really want to, create some space to get some feedback, then that can be a really great tool. There are a couple different workbooks, worksheets. So 2 that are really important is one called How to Interpret Body Sensations, which kind of walks you through almost how to like do somatic processing for yourself. So how to lean into a sensation and communicate with it in a way that doesn't leave you swimming in something unpleasant, but that actually gives you the tools to move through it and get the information from it that would help you resolve and like release anything that needs to be released, and gather what's important and let the rest go. So there's How to Interpret Bodily Sensations. There's an emotional alchemy practice, which is about processing emotions, which is a very physical experience. I would consider emotional alchemy to be very like energetic and physical, and you'll find that in Conscious Wholeness and really any modality, is that they kind of overlap, right? It's not just, there's a lot of like weaving in and out of each other, but those are a few things in there that I find very helpful, along with classes on the body that outline those steps that I mentioned earlier, a full video on emotional processing. So there's a lot in there that you can sink your teeth into. And there's weekly office hours with me. So every Monday, we meet at 1:00. We do a practice together, and then I open it up for questions. So that's a place that, especially if you're, strapped for resources, all you have to do is spend $5 one time to access this course for the rest of your life, and you can come to office hours with me anytime you want and get a little bit extra personal support to make space and have your hand held a little bit while you try to navigate this relationship with your body, because it can really help. It can get a little bit confusing when you're doing it by yourself. So it really, really helps to have support. And I think I've mentioned I grant lifetime access for everybody. So part of why I do this is because I believe that these are the sorts of things we should have been taught in school. And I really don't feel good about having it. I feel really good about having it be accessible to anyone. I've worked with people who are homeless. I've worked with people in all different stretches of life. And let me tell you what, the amount of money that someone has is it's like not related to how much they want the information or how hard they work or how much they will implement. And I know that $5 for some people is a stretch. and whereas like 10,000 for other people is like nothing, so it's really for me it feels good to take money off the table as a barrier and allow you to decide, what feels like an appropriate stretch, what number feels right to you if you were to join this, for like what energy exchange do you want to contribute to, so you get to decide that and have lifetime access to everything. You'll get lifetime access to the updates. I add classes. Like, this is something that will probably go into conscious wholeness eventually. I'll probably take it down for free and then just make sure that it's still in the course. I plan on adding all kinds of new content, and my future vision for the course actually is to develop it into a provider network. So there will always be a content level membership that is accessible like this, where there would be, interviews with providers, workout sessions. Like, I'm trying to get a few restorative yoga sessions booked that we can put into the course, energy healing sessions, or just discussions about that. So if you're somebody who loves to learn about personal growth, it really is a great place to be. And, eventually, yes, if you're a provider, I would absolutely love to have you in there, because I need you I want your expertise to contribute to kind of like a holistic network, and where we can all support each other. We can all explore these concepts of wholeness together. I will mention that right now I have one-on-one services available. So if it feels like something that you want to either have a private session with me or to work with me for a few months, like I have a 3-month service called Jumpstart Your Results. These services are going to be coming off of the menu here like tomorrow. The private sessions, like a single session, you can book through the end of the year. But if you want to work with me for 3 months on this stuff, then we need to start like now so that we can wrap up by the end of the year. Again, this is just to streamline what the course is going to be, which is a provider network more focused on accessing a lot of different providers and all of their expertise around building conscious wholeness, like a feeling of wholeness, a feeling of being good enough inside of yourself, a connection to what's really important to you. So I'm taking away the one-on-one services just to streamline and build and focus on growing membership and just focusing on the long-term vision. So if you want to book that, then make sure to hop on it now and let me know if you have any questions about that. But even if not, I would just love to have you as a member in Conscious Wholeness. Again, a one-time donation of $5 will get you there. All you have to do is go to briannamcnerney.com/conscious-wholeness and make a donation that feels right to you, and you will be automatically right in the course. So, and again, even if you don't want that, even if this is all that you were bargaining for, I still really appreciate you being here. I would love to hear what you think of the class and any questions that you have coming up, anything that would be helpful for you. I would be absolutely thrilled to support you. And is there anything else that I want to say about this before I go? I don't think so, but I just want to thank you. I will put the relevant links in the show notes. And by chance, if you feel like you don't really want to be part of Conscious Wholeness, it feels like too much for you right now, but you would like to make a donation to thank me for this class, I am very open to receiving donations and very much appreciate it. This is what I do for a living. So I would much appreciate the support. And I will put a PayPal link in there as well, so that you can see that if you don't want access to the course. But I will say to you, that when people enter conscious wholeness, it's much less about how much they engage or don't engage with the content, though of course it helps to watch the content. Like the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. But at the same time, I've seen over and over again that even just making that decision, it starts a process in your own life that, it unfolds over time. And the more that you practice and open up to that, the more that you're guided in maybe different directions that aren't just the course, right? Maybe you're guided to a different provider that you want to work with. And that is all part of it too. So I want you to just be reassured that your timing is absolutely perfect and whatever feels right for you. You are very appreciated. I love you so much. I'm so happy that you've been here with me this whole time. I hope it was helpful, and I hope that I will get a chance to play with you some more again soon, whether it's in conscious wholeness or some other way. And yeah, I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Mwah.